Yeah, they don't want people to celebrate after they get touchdowns.
Act like you've been in the end zone before. Man, this ain't nothing but
Act like you've been in. They don't want you to celebrate after you get a touchdown.
Act like you've been in the end zone before, man.
Do you even know what that means, you idiot?
Yes, man.
You just sit back and just repeat things he
Yes,
will tell
I'm
you
gonna keep
without
saying over and over
no
again.
clue.
There's
as
no
to
reason
what
to
the
celebrate.
concept behind
No
what they're
reason
talking
to
about.
continue to celebrate the things that we are accustomed to doing, man.
I mean, man, you never get accustomed to scoring them touchdowns.
But my teacher in my interpersonal communication class said, celebrate small victories because they do not come around that often.
We're live. Yeah.
Yo, it's your boy Peanut. I got my man Stacking SMED.
What's up, everybody, man? Welcome to the Legendary People Podcast, afternoon edition.
Yeah.
We only go in the afternoon when we got important people, man, that don't got time to come at night and deal with us. So, we do want to start by acknowledging Horizon Science Academy, Dayton High School,
You ain't
man.
cool if you don't go to that school.
You're not cool if you don't go to that school, man. Horizon Science Academy, Dayton High School, man. You guys go and check them out. They are right around the corner on Needmore Road with a great principal over there. So, yeah, definitely want to go over there and see what's up. We're going to give away free breakfast to somebody today at Sheik's. So, Sheik's for breakfast, Agnes All Natural Grill for lunch. Man, happy birthday to North Jose Estremera. Man, we kicked it Saturday night.
And my sister's birthday was yesterday.
Was it? My brother's birthday is yesterday.
Happy birthday, sissy.
Happy birthday to my brother, man. You know, your brother, you're serious? You have real sisters?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Wait a minute, man. Now, your birthday is on my mom's birthday.
Yeah.
Your girlfriend's birthday is on my birthday.
Yeah.
And now my brother's birthday is on the same birthday as your
My
sister's.
sister, yeah.
And your grandparents are from Paris. Well, my parents is from Paris, Kentucky, but your parents or grandparents are from somewhere.
Yeah, well, the Appalachian Mountain. So I'm still tracing that back, but I think it's Kentucky, kind of Tennessee area.
You are trying to be like me.
Oh my
God! And all of that. I say that to say this.
He drew all these parallels that I'm the one doing it.
Are you kidding me, man? Get off my neighborhood,
Oh my.
man. Let me just have my own space. Goodness. She's for breakfast, Agnes All Natural Grill for lunch. If you're ever injured, call attorney Michael Wright, 937-222-7477. Make the right choice. That's attorney Michael Wright. When you want to get lit a little bit, relax and unwind with some Kiara wine, you contact Antoine Cunningham on Facebook or swoop it up at More for Less. And the shoparea.com is like the baby Amazon. Delivery is always free from the store to your door in 4 business days. And I say that to say this. Is the shoparea.com still around, man? I ain't talked to them in a minute.
We're going to continue.
She did give us this nice little cell phone holder. It's like a selfie thing, man. It was real sweet. Shoparea.com. Make sure y'all go and check them out, man. We are at T-Shirt Kings, Gold for Your Mouth, and Camera King Studios, 4301 North Main. Super Summer Sale is off. So now we got the Ball Till You Fall all fall sale with T-shirts. That's right, man. 50 T-shirts for $250. That breaks down to $5 a T-shirt. You can sell them for $10 and double your money. So make sure you come and check us out at T-Shirt Kings. And my brother Peanut Johnson teaches you how to get a lot of money from investing your money the right way. Sell stocks, not dope. Every Sunday on the Dash Resource channel. Like, subscribe, ring the bell notification. Dash Resource channel. So now, without further ado, my brother Peanut Johnson, over to you.
Yeah. So I started on my YouTube page a series where I literally go over different football teams and I'll tell you every stock associated with that team. Today I went over the Cincinnati Bengals. The week before that it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the first one I did was the Dallas Cowboys. So if you want your team to be highlighted where I'll go over all the stocks associated with that, please comment below. But anyways, we ain't here to talk about me, right? We're here to talk about the legends, right? All right, Ice. So
I did his ad, but then he had to go in and clarify it a little better. I mean, golly. Well, let me tell you guys a little bit more about T-shirts while we're at it.
What about T-shirts? We have 50-50 blitz. Come on, Smith. All right, look. All right. So we've had, you know what I'm saying, so many different legendary people on this podcast. And to me, there's no legend higher. I say that all the time, right? But this is a second coming for this individual. And when she first came here, you know what I'm saying, she actually went down her whole like life story up to that point. So you guys we're not going to go all over that again, so you guys can go back and watch that other video. We're actually going to, get more to the topics today than we were before. So we had a legend, here before. She's back again, Miss Angelina Jackson. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you, Peanut?
Exceptionally well.
Hey, SMED.
Hey, what's up?
You're the first person to ever do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Thank you for making me feel better.
Right. So for the people who are not familiar with their story, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So I guess background-wise, I was born and raised here in Dayton. I grew up in the Hillcrest Fairview neighborhood, so on Hillcrest Avenue. I was the oldest of 4 children. Graduated from Colonel White High School many years ago. And yeah, I went to Stivers for junior high, Lincoln Elementary, Fairview Elementary, worked at a lot of places, starting at age 14, my first job, Hair Arena.
Okay, Hair Arena.
I can't remember if we talked about that.
Legendary Hair Arena.
Yeah, Hair Arena. Worked at the merry-go-round in Salem Mall, the old video town that became a Blockbuster Video. So yeah.
Word. So what roles led to you becoming a lawyer?
Well, I'm a first generation attorney. By that, there were no attorneys in my family. To my knowledge, there are not any, at least, in my immediate family. And so growing up, I didn't have any family members that were attorneys. My dad worked at the UD Law Library, though, when he was in college. So he met a law student by the name of Jim Cannon, who would later become a judge in the Dayton Municipal Court. And Judge Cannon passed away many years ago, but when I was 12 years old, he took me to court with him one day, because at the time he was still a solo practitioner.
Okay.
So he took me to court, and we saw all of these different court proceedings. I was just a little 6th grader, but I was fascinated. And he also at the end of this day, and I don't remember how that came about, whether it was something I asked about, whether something my father proposed for me, or Jim proposed for me, I'm not sure. And then at the end of the day, he gave me what's called a street law treatise. This is a type of book that you use when you're in law school. And when I was 12, I read my first case in that book.
Wow.
Yes, and it was a summary of a case called The Queen versus Dudley and Stevens, and that's like the first case that you read when you go to law school, like in criminal law. And we don't have to go all up into the facts, but it's about people drawing straws to figure out who's going to be killed and eaten because they're stranded at sea. But whoa. It's a very fascinating case. It's real, but really what it's about, though, is it addressed the concept of justification and sort of under what circumstances is criminal conduct justified. Okay. And I read this over and over. When I was 12, I was fascinated with the story. And it had other stories in there, too, that I read, but that one I read many, many times. And I think that, I was just a curious, kind of introspective kid even back then. And I really found the law a fascinating subject. And then it kind of went on from there through my, adolescent years. I read lots and lots of true crime. I don't know if that's weird or not.
No. True crime is one of the number one trending things on YouTube. And
so back then, we didn't have, of course, all the streaming and everything like that. So it's just lots of books. So I think that really began what was just this lifelong fascination with the system that we have to hold people accountable, and sort of this immensely powerful system that shapes our whole entire society, really.
So eventually you become a public defender. Right. So what was some of your experiences as a public defender where you were, the gatekeeper between, someone who doesn't have enough money for a representation and, the long arm of the law?
So, I know that everyone watching probably understands what being a public defender is, but I just want to speak about that just for a minute.
Absolutely.
Because I think that we do important work, and I also think that, the presence of a public defender in this election is pretty significant. So, as public defenders, we are government employees. We only represent individuals who cannot afford an attorney, who are facing incarceration from criminal charges. So if you are not facing incarceration, you are not entitled to a public defender under the law. And this is the right to counsel in these circumstances is a constitutional right, okay? It's a constitutional mandate that comes from a case, Gideon versus Wainwright. It's a very, very old case. And so what we are doing is we are representing people who have a constitutional right to our representation. And so I think that's kind of important background for folks to understand about, why at the core we are tasked with doing the work that we are doing.
Because there's like a negative connotation when they say, okay, well, such and such got 70 years. They're like, well, did he have to pay the attorney? First thing they ask all the time.
Yeah.
So you can still.
So I think, here's the thing about some of the stereotypes of well, first let me say this. I think that the public defenders that I know, obviously we all came into this position. It was a choice to come. We chose this. And we talked about this the last time I was here, that I actually was practicing at a large corporate law firm, and I had a very nice job, making very nice money. And I left that job to do this work because I feel like it was something for me that I was called to do, and that I was just called to do. So I do think that historically, okay, there have been public defender offices where, and probably still presently in many places across the country, where the public defenders just have too many cases. They're overloaded with too many cases and perhaps lack some of the resources to be able to provide that full and robust, effective representation. And so, that is historically accurate. But, the idea, I think that, public defenders, that they don't care or that they're lazy, or that just has not been my experience for any public defenders that I've known, whether it's in this county or any other county. And I will say that for Montgomery County, I think we are very, very fortunate. I think that we have a lot of resources. We have investigative staff, we have social workers on staff who help with a lot of different things related to our cases and how we serve our clients. And so we have a fully staffed office. But the other thing historically, just so y'all know, is that, public defenders in many places still probably are not paid on par with their counterparts at the prosecutor's office.
Wow.
So pay parity is something that has been a topic of conversation for a very long time. So there's a lot of issues.
How big of a divide is it when it comes to monetary? Like when you're working for a public defender rather than the prosecutor who has all the resources. He can call up the cop that was there, bring him in, cross-examine him as much as he wants to. He has enough money to hire people to follow you while you're out, things of that nature. Compared to you like, man, we got to split the hairs on getting a investigator on our side. So what is the biggest discrepancy or disparity when it comes to those two different issues?
So I think you touched on a really important, a resource issue. And this is when I was saying that offices are under-resourced. You are correct. Obviously, law enforcement is performing an investigatory function on behalf of the state. The state is the party that brings the prosecution. And so, having an entire, division or law enforcement agency at your disposal, not saying every single cop is working on your particular case, but you do have the benefit of having a law enforcement agency, whereas, a public defender's office may only have one investigator or two or none, really. And also I think that there comes a time, like sometimes, you need to seek approval from the court to get different types of experts and stuff like that to be involved in your case. So I do think that there historically, yes, has been a significant sort of resource disparity between what the state has available to it and what public defender offices have available to them, even though, as I said, we are carrying out a constitutionally mandated role in society.
So with you seeing it be like that, what would make you want to become a judge?
Well, I think so there's a lot of things about kind of how I got here. Obviously doing this work, I'm representing people who are poor, and not all of my clients are unemployed. Right. Some are employed, but they're still making less than, where the federal poverty
we just read in pre-production. What was the poverty rate right now? Around almost 30%.
Well, this is right. The Dayton Daily News article that just came out, I believe for 2021, the statistics say that almost 30% of residents of the city of Dayton are living in poverty, and that rate goes up to about a third for our Black and brown communities, and about a quarter of the white community living at or below the poverty line. Wow. And so, and that doesn't even take into account folks who are living slightly above the poverty line, but who are still unable to meet basic needs. So, I am in our office, obviously, we are working with, people who are living in poverty, whether working or not. And you really learn a lot about what that means for how people are just navigating daily life to begin with. And, there are extraordinary difficulties that those of us who are not living in that way, even if we're not well off, but things that we don't even think about and that we might take for granted in our everyday life. And then when you take that and you put it in the context of being kind of in the criminal justice system, right, and having to meet certain requirements or do certain things, sometimes it becomes extraordinarily difficult to meet those requirements because of the structural barriers that poverty presents, for folks. And then when you're adding on additional sort of complicating factors like, things like substance abuse addiction or mental health issues, it can become very difficult, very complicated for people to be able to transform themselves and to come out of that and to become a productive member of society. So I will say that I feel like, in all of the hundreds of clients that I've represented through the years, that really no one wants to be in those circumstances. Right. I've never heard anyone say that they're happy about being poor or having these types of struggles. So I digress for a little bit, but I feel like, why did I want to become a judge as a public defender? A couple of different reasons. I mean, one, I think that obviously it is very, very important that we have judges who are going to be truly dedicated to applying the law in a fair and equal manner, okay? And who are committed to truly treating each person that walks through the doors equally, period. No matter what their circumstances are, that at least initially when you enter the doors of that courtroom, every person is equal under the law until the variables come out and start to shift that analysis. And even then, no matter what, all people who are humans are still, entitled to be treated with dignity and with respect. Absolutely. Whether you're getting ready to go away for a life sentence and be incarcerated or whatever the circumstances may be. That's right. We can, I want to be part of a justice system that does those things, right? And I believe that I can do my part to make sure that we have a justice system that functions that way. So I think there's some core beliefs and values that I hold as a person, as a public defender, that other public defenders share. And I think that we talked about this before, we're not represented on the current bench. And I think that we should be. We should be sitting on the bench along with our colleagues from the prosecutor's office, from private practice, from academia, because we're doing valuable and important work. And I also think that, we, through our experience in walking hand in hand with people, dealing not only with our client, but with their families, with other issues that they're going through, we have seen what works for our clients who are amenable to rehabilitation.
Right.
So we have a very unique perspective. We understand sort of some of the barriers that stop our clients from being successful, and we see what works to help our clients be successful. Right. And I think it's a unique vantage point to have, and that is part of the perspective that I want to bring to the bench.
Right. So your opponent has aligned himself with law enforcement, and a lot of his ads and things of that nature. Besides one I saw over in this area, I find that kind of funny. What do you think about him aligning himself with law enforcement and a bunch of advertisements, but on the west side he doesn't? I'm just asking for the people.
So as far as endorsements are concerned, having an FOP endorsement is something that's not uncommon. We see that frequently. So I don't think there's anything particularly unusual about that. Choosing to leave that off of materials that are put into the west side and put into the black community, I suppose that kind of speaks for itself.
Oh yeah. Okay. So basically, he's leaving that endorsement off of the material and stuff that's on the west side.
Yes.
Is that what we're saying here?
I think that's what you had asked me.
Yes.
Right.
Don't you find that kind of ironic that he leaves that part?
Well, that reminds me of interview that we did with Chill B, and he was trying to do like an ad-lib Michael Wright commercial, and I told him like, hey, make sure he asks you to do that commercial.
He don't want your endorsement, Chill B.
Right. But
this is the thing. I like I said, I think that I've been fortunate throughout this campaign to get the support of a broad cross-section of our community. I feel really blessed. We've been a lot of places, talked to a lot of people. I've tried to be involved in the community over the years outside of my work, and so that people know me and they know what I stand for. And so I do think that it's important to a degree, to be looking at the candidates and the endorsements that they have. And so, that kind of thing, I won't go too far off into the weeds, but, we've got elected officials, there are some organizations, there are advocates, members of the faith community, local attorneys. And so I think it's important to kind of have a broad representation of the community in terms of who is supportive of your campaign. And I'm very, very thankful. Shout out to all the people who have endorsed our campaign. We appreciate you so much. For sure. But I mean, I do think it's important that, that our candidates do try to go into the community and talk to people and engage with them. And that means all parts of the community as much as is feasible. you know, and I have not turned down an invitation to come and talk with someone. I have welcomed that, be it an individual to an organization, anywhere anyone has asked me to come and I will be there if I can, because I want people to know that I'm about all people in this community.
Absolutely.
Okay? I'm not just standing for one particular group of people. This really, we say in my campaign that this is about all of us because it is.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is.
Right. So, are you the candidate that people are saying that you're soft on crime? How do you feel about people saying you soft on crime?
Well, I don't think anyone, if they've said it, they haven't said it directly to my face.
Right. She want all that smoke. You would have said soft on crime.
Well, this is the thing. I think that that's a common, way of attacking people in a political context. I see it all the time, and I'm sure you guys do in other ads, especially outside the judicial context. Sometimes people who really don't have anything to do with the criminal justice system, and they're soft on crime. And it's like, that's they're in charge of like sanitation department or something.
Soft on crime.
Right. So it's just kind of it's a fear-mongering tactic. And so I think unique to public defenders, because they're like, you represent criminals. That means that you are not going to hold criminals accountable. Wow. And this is the thing. That is untrue. Number one, again, the duty of a public defender is different than the duty of a judge. The duty of a public defender is to carry out this constitutional mandate to represent our clients to the best of our ability and to provide them with the assertion of all of the rights that they are entitled to under the law, period. That is our ethical and constitutional duty. And I take that seriously. I stand by that, and I think that there's honor in that, okay? Absolutely. However, the role of a court is different. The court is there to interpret and apply the law in an objective manner, okay? The court is not advocating on behalf of the state or on behalf of the defendant. And so the court also has, within the criminal justice system, has this obligation to consider public safety. So to kind of say that a public defender is somehow incapable of carrying out that duty in a way that a prosecutor is not. I don't think that I think that is unfair, and I think it is based on nothing but absolute stereotypes, and so the other thing about that is, I am raising 2 daughters in this community. I have daughters who are 10 and 15. They are school-aged girls. Why wouldn't it? So I don't want them to be in a safe community. Wow. So this is the thing. I think I and all of my counterparts care very much about public safety and holding people accountable. But to me, it's not about tough on crime, soft on crime. It's about being smart on crime. So I was reading this like a few days ago, and this is just a statistic, I think, for the United States. Like there's an arrest every 3 seconds or something like that, and only some very small percentage is for violent crime. Okay? Very small. So I kind of want to set the stage that, the majority of crimes that we are dealing with are not the violent crimes that you see in the headline news. Do rapes and murders and child molestation and things like that happen? Yes, they do. And they happen in this community. Okay? So I'm not going to say that we don't have violent crime. We do. But the majority of crime is not violent, and a lot of it is rooted in other things. It is rooted in the poverty. It is rooted in addiction. It is rooted in untreated mental health. So really what we have, I feel like we have an obligation, and honestly, the courts have been tasked really with figuring out what to do with folks who are suffering from those things, right? And then they find themselves involved in the criminal justice system. And so what we have, we need to be thinking about what is the best way to hold people accountable that will give them the opportunity to be rehabilitated, to not reoffend, and to come back into the community as a productive member. Because these are low-level offenses.
Right.
We're talking 12, 18 months in prison. Even if you go for the maximum amount of time, guess what? You're coming back.
Right.
Most likely right here.
Right in the same area.
So do we want to use our resources to, send nonviolent, low-level offenders away for short periods of time, which is extraordinarily costly, right? Or do we want to look at potential interventions and alternatives to incarceration where that's legally appropriate? And we should. And the law says that we should. So I'm going to just tell you this, for the last year that data was publicly available, I believe that to house someone in the Montgomery County Jail, this might have been 2019. Please don't.
It probably
if I misspeak, but a year or so, it was like $76 a day compared to supervision, which is, dramatically less.
Right.
So given the poverty that a lot of our county is facing, don't we have an obligation, as a community, to think about how we're using our resources, because they are not limitless, they are finite. And we should be using our resources in the smartest way to advance public safety and rehabilitation.
Correct.
And it really shouldn't be about appealing just strictly to emotions and fear and making people in this community think that there are just criminals running around, lurking on every corner, waiting to take advantage of every single person.
Right.
It's a fear-based message that, is inaccurate.
Absolutely.
And also, dehumanizing to a degree. And I don't agree with that.
So I saw in this video that went viral recently where, a lady was at her house and they were banging on her door. She answered the door. And the part where she had to justify her humanity was the part that hurt me the most. She said, nobody here got any felonies. Nobody here done it in the third. No, you would never have to justify that in another circumstance, right? How does your background in being a public defender uniquely make you a more unique candidate?
You can say better.
Yeah.
Say that.
Better candidate.
Yeah. What will make you a uniquely better candidate?
So let me do this real quick for the edification of all of our listeners, that obviously we didn't give this intro remark, but this is the adult felony criminal court. This is the court that hears civil disputes over $15,000 and a number of administrative appeals. Okay. I've been practicing for 18 years. I have many years of experience doing criminal work at the misdemeanor, felony, and appellate levels. I've done civil litigation with a corporate law firm. I've done civil rights litigation. And so I have significant substantive experience in each of the areas that the common pleas court is hearing cases in.
Right.
Okay? So we'll go ahead and dispose of that right away. We're going to address the experience issue. But I think, again, back to asking, why is it important? What is unique about being a public defender? Some of the things that we've talked about already is that there is a level of discernment that is cultivated from doing the work and the perspective that we have. And we're in a unique position really to determine where alternatives to incarceration are warranted, which ones work, which ones don't, and when incarceration is warranted. And, lest anyone believe that, there's something that public defenders won't put anyone in jail. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I almost feel silly addressing it, but I don't have a problem imposing incarceration where it's legally warranted. And there are many, many cases where incarceration is required.
There we go.
Right.
Okay? That's just what it is. And I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that even the criminal that's sitting back watching this podcast, and they know certain times people deserve or should be incarcerated for things that they do. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, so we don't have to like, I don't know, man. You know, like people try to paint you in a position where whatever you say is looked at as wrong.
Right.
But everything that you're saying is 100% right. And from what I'm hearing, you got the experience in every angle, in every department on the cases that you will be judging. You've already had experience dealing with these matters. And so that's what we're looking for, you know.
I think it's important.
Somebody that has balance.
I think it's important, and I think it's important, you know, to talk about that. The substantive experience matters. I have been in the criminal courts of the state of Ohio. I've been in the civil courts, you know, of the state of Ohio. I've been, you know, in the appellate courts of the state of Ohio.
Right.
And so sometimes I think, particularly as women of color, okay, we are constantly in a position where we have got to defend our qualifications. And that's why I like do, you know, one sentence thing and move on. If you want additional details, I'm happy to give them. But for anyone to suggest that, like, I do not have the experience to be a judge. I mean, hold up. The minimum qualification is 6 years of practice. I've had 18 years.
Triple.
Well, yeah. So there are some positive aspects to the criminal justice system that you know, that kind of restore people. What are you most passionate about? Such as, you know, like bail reform, record sealing, or driver's license reinstatement.
So probably the area that I am most passionate about has to do with record sealing and expungement. And, you know, everybody pretty much knows about that, but it's a way to erase to a degree or remove record of criminal convictions or arrests, you know, from the general public. In the case of record sealing, it removes it from the general public. But in the case of expungement, it just destroys it completely, and we only allow expungement in very limited circumstances for adults. Very recently, some certain firearms offenses will be eligible for expungement under the new law, and then we have expungement for victims of human trafficking. And that is something that I'm also very passionate about. So I think that, you know, we as a society, I mean, y'all already know this, there is horrible amount of stigma associated with involvement in the criminal justice system.
Yes.
And we have, you know, folks' criminal records have marginalized them, have disenfranchised them in many circumstances, and oftentimes many years after something has happened. And so when someone has shown themselves to be rehabilitated, the law says that certain offenses can be removed from the public's view. And not only does this give people the opportunity to pursue employment and housing and education, but what I know from my clients and their experience is it also restores something inside of them too, right? Something in the spirit, because it is removing that label of being a criminal and carrying that as a defining factor on the inside. And it is when you talk to people and you see how they feel when that's lifted away, I can't even explain. You know, it's very major. And it's something that, you know, the Ohio has continued to expand beyond the record sealing. You know, the governor has his expedited pardon project. We have certificates of qualification for employment, because I think there is beginning to be this societal recognition that people deserve to have second chances and deserve not to be defined for their entire life by their lowest moment. And so I love doing record stealing clinics. We do a lot of them at the public defender's office. We partner with people. Very passionate about that. I also love driver's license reinstatement. We did a
Open
clinic.
Up so many doors for you.
Well, we
that
did
is
a clinic.
Major key thing to help people turn their lives around.
Absolutely. I wish we could. Well, it could be a whole nother separate show to talk about what we could do with regard to driver's license reinstatement. But we had a clinic recently. The public defender's office partnered with the public library and partnered with several of our local clerks' offices, which was super reassuring to have us all working together collaboratively. And we served 181 people in like 4 hours.
Wow.
Because of the and what this was is it was talking to people about, what their fines were, what they had to do to get valid, where their warrant blocks were. They could go talk to the clerk's office to set up payment plans, to make arrangements for those warrant blocks to be lifted. And this is the thing. We had so many people there because people want to have a valid license.
Yes.
They want to have a valid license.
They do.
And I think, those of us that work in the system understand how easy it is to go down that black hole from one ticket.
From one
it just
ticket.
becomes...
Yeah. Well, once you don't have a license, then you start feeling it's hopeless, and then you get another ticket, and then it's just like you feel like you'll never get your license back until something confronts you where you're like, hold on, let me at least try. But
it's
you're
really
right.
hard, and it's really hard and complicated to navigate because you have to deal, and that's the thing, it's not a simple thing. Like, you have to deal with the BMB, you often have to deal with several different courts, and there might be fees and fines, oftentimes in astronomical amounts. And I'm not saying that it was like right to do whatever you did to begin with to get a valid license, but I mean, it becomes extraordinarily difficult to turn it around.
I think one thing that and it happens when you're young and you're not well established,
right?
And you have to pay insurance, and you end up getting pulled over with no insurance, and then that's an automatic suspension on your license.
It is. Yes,
but then in the meantime, while your license are getting suspended, you still probably got to drive to work. You got to go take kids to daycare. You got to live your life. And you'll end up getting pulled over again. And then heaven forbid that the police officer remembers they pulled you over in a certain car and they seen you driving before without license. And then they're now you just going down that rabbit hole that you're talking about, where now you got all of these tickets and all of these driving with no license and with no insurance. So I've been through it. Like, I have been through that for so long, just, worried about driving with no license. And I finally did end up getting my license back. But I battled with that for years. And this was after I had my business. This was after I was a lot more stable. The license is a battle. And if you are going to stand on that front to help people get their license back, that's reason enough to elect you judge.
Right.
That alone.
I also want to add because I have an older brother. His name is Lynn, and he was a person in that same type of like circumstance where he can't remember when he got his driver's license, how many times he, what I'm saying? It was just normal for him to. I'm not gonna say how they navigate. You know what I mean? The streets, I got you right, but. I saw where they were reinstating people. I'm a person like, my mom was on me like, nah, like, you got to be on this in the third, right? I done lost my license before for other situations, but I retained them and I'm good. So when I saw that, I forwarded information to him, and literally it changed his life. He went from maybe $30,000 to $40,000 to now he got his CDLs, and now he's all the way in Florida making over $100,000 a year, taking care of his family, moving forward in life rather than being stuck in those restraints that just literally keep you in poverty, that keeps you next to crime.
Driver's license, helping people with that.
And I think, amazing. Obviously, a judge isn't going to go and sit in a driver's license clinic and be providing legal services. But here again, right, it's the experience, it is the perspective, it is the level of understanding about how we get to where we got, and where. What are the things we truly need to address to get to rehabilitation? Are all the things that we are asking you to do on court supervision geared towards what it is we're trying to achieve.
Right.
Are they you know what I mean? And being aware of where the resources are to get people some of this assistance that they need. And, you know, despite what anyone may say, the court does have a role in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, how do we start the early voting process? What other way can people vote? And when is the election day for people that are underneath a rock?
Okay.
I can put the other part of it because we got here underneath a rock or
So one of you guys, if you can, you know, you might be able to pull the BOE social and drop it into the
into the presentation.
all these drop it in there. However you do it. Just drop it like it's hot spread.
Okay.
But so the election is November 8th. Folks, tomorrow is the deadline to register to vote. And that's the important thing. Everybody needs to check their voter registration. And if it's not updated, you still have until tomorrow, October 11th, to get registered to vote, to be able to vote in the November 8th election.
Oh, yeah.
Then early voting starts on October 12th. Yeah. And if you're able to find the hours for early voting, you could drop those in, and then the Board of Elections has that information of all of their specific hours on the website, but I'm happy to get you guys that information so that you can post it. But the dates to remember are October 11th, voter registration deadline, October 12th. Early voting begins where you can go down to the Board of Elections, you know, at your convenience during their scheduled hour. Go to early voting. And then there's some people, they like to go to their polling place on November 8th. Nothing, you know.
They validate your parking downtown. Go down there, validate your parking. You know what I'm saying? Go. You know.
And if you have absentee ballots, there are drop boxes down at the Board of Elections where you can drop those, but you can put those ballots into the drop boxes. Yeah. And so there are a number of ways, you know, to make sure that your voice is heard. It's just really, really important. So I had this conversation because I rolled up on somebody on Salem. I was trying to put up a sign, and I rolled up outside the barber shop, and, you know, I was talking to two young men, and I just, you know, the conversation that we had was about, you know, a lot of people feel like, why should I vote? Like, it doesn't matter. Everybody's corrupt. And I'm like, you know, I think a lot of that, like, that is just like, you know, don't let that sentiment deprive you of your political power.
Yeah.
Because exactly. And this is the thing. Stacey Abrams was given this interview on the Steve Harvey Morning Show. I don't know if you guys heard that, but she was talking about, and I think what she said is that in terms of like who votes the most, it's black women, white men, and then black men. Now, I don't know if that was a statistic just general or if it was more specific to Georgia. Right. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying and what I said to these young men is that, you know, you have a voice, right? And like our ancestors really fought and died for you to have the right and really the responsibility and the obligation to go in and make your voice heard. And I think that we need to be, you know, how can we complain about what's going on in our own communities if we're not taking the initial step to try and, you know, determine what's right for our community? Right. When you go vote for your local candidates, you are taking a stance on what is right for your community. Right. And I think everybody, you know, needs to go and do that and not take that for granted. It's not, we cannot afford to take that for granted.
Correct. So who are some of the candidates and some of the issues that are on the ballot?
Okay, so there is going to be, with regard to your courts, okay, I'll speak, there are a number of local positions, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the judicial positions that are not necessarily local, they're statewide. So there are going to be 3 open seats for the Ohio Supreme Court on the ballot.
Wow.
Okay. there are going to be 2 seats for the 2nd District Court of Appeals, and the 2nd District Court of Appeals Montgomery County is one of the counties the 2nd District covers. Yes. And so then you're going to have, although those are unopposed, and that is a conversation that's a longer conversation. Nevertheless,
I myself to write down the people who are running unopposed when I leave the ballot box. I'm running for one position. Like, I'm gonna get 7 votes. I don't care. Just give me 7 votes, man, to be one of them, right?
Yeah.
So the 3 Ohio Supreme Court position, all of those are opposed. The 2 for the 2nd District are unopposed, and then you have 3 common pleas seats here locally, and all of those are opposed. So there's 2 for the general division. I am running for one of those seats. I have the endorsement of the local Democratic Party, and Tony Shane is running for the other seat in the adult felony criminal court. Okay, and he is the other candidate endorsed by the local Democrat Party. And then you're going to have 2. You're going to have 1 seat for juvenile court, okay? That is also a contested race. So the other thing that people, as a practical piece of advice, when you go to the ballot box, the Supreme Court candidates will have a party designation by their name, as will the Court of Appeals candidates. But for your local common pleas court candidates, there's no party designation, okay? And really, the judicial function is a nonpartisan, function. It's different than other elected officials like your governor and your, county commissioner, auditor, some of the other things that are on the ballot. This is, your state representatives. This is just, judges are different. Judges are different. However, judicial candidates are endorsed by local political parties, and a lot of times people are looking for that information. It is not on the ballot. So you have to, if that is something that is of importance to you, you will have to do your homework. You will have to look for that information to be able to find that out.
What are some resources for people to investigate who will be running for office? What are some ways they can look that up?
Sure. So there is the League of Women Voters puts out a really nice comprehensive guide that is available in paper and online. The Dayton Daily News just did its voter guide, so they are putting out a series of articles. Though we kind of just, I think you can.
We laughed about it in pre-production. Like it start off like Angelina paid $9.99 to finish the rest of the article. Like, man, they didn't finish her name.
I think that you can access those without having to pay for them. You can, if I'm not correct on that, my apologies.
The real neighborhood news will be produced in our own.
I believe that, but I know you can access the League of Women Voters. They're nonpartisan. It has a lot of information. And then there are a variety of different websites, that you can use to research, your candidates. And usually if you just, Google like my local races or local judicial races, a variety of different websites will pop up.
Right. So what are some of the fundamental differences between, a Democratic or a Republican? For someone who's like just woke up today, they 18 years old, like my son, he's 18 years old, his first time like going down there. What are some of the fundamental differences between Republican and Democrats?
That's just such a very expansive question. I mean, I think that this is what I would tell a young person to do. Okay? This is rather than Angie Jackson telling you all the things about what she thinks. I think that each party has a national platform, right? And I think for a young person, it's a good place to start. Okay? Go to the political party's national platform and read over that. Now, some of it's quite lengthy, but they also have summaries, so you can look and see what the stated values are of that particular political party.
Yeah.
Man, so
YouTube channel too.
Yeah.
YouTube University.
YouTube University. I'm a graduate of there as well.
Yeah.
So, man, here on the Legendary People podcast, there's a thing called the butterfly effect. There's something you said in the course of an interview, something I found in the course of my research that I found to be truly profound and amazing. I remember when you first came on, you know, when you did the Legendary People podcast interview where we did, you know, your early humble beginnings, right? You came in here with a scrapbook full of your whole family lineage, and it was so amazing, and it was great to see you like brighten up when you talk about your family and you being, you know, a real Daytonian, like real out the mud kind of situation. And then today I got a chance to watch my brother SMED see that same excitement today, and him discovering his family and things like that. I mean, he brought his wife back here, they smile, they taking pictures of that, and it's like that was put together by a census, right? Census kind of help us along the way, and a lot of people have these negative connotations when it comes to voting or a census, when there's a practical reason we have these things in place. Voting is actually get you put that into action. So for you to be so passionate about, you know, the have-nots, the people who aren't already well off, who can go get a, you know, I'm not going to endorse somebody, you know what I'm saying? But for you to be on that side of it, to say, you know what, I'm going to use my superpower for good, and taking your experience to help other people and to actually clean the mess up. It's hard for someone who's not from this area to come in and have their way on how they think things should be structured. There's different culture involved there, and for you to be other culture. I mean, I don't run into your Bozak, I don't run into the appetizer, you know what I'm saying? You know, from there to other places of prominence, and for you to be of the people, you are really the people's judge, man. So I want to say it's legendary again. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. And I just want y'all to know how much I appreciate everything you are doing for the community, your support, not just of me, but of these issues. You know, I believe that what you guys are doing is really, really important, giving everyday people the chance to come in and tell their story. And a lot of these stories are so inspirational. They're stories of triumph. They're stories of people overcoming. And I love that. So thanks a lot, guys.
Man, your legendary observation?
Yeah, I just, you know, I've been through all different type of phases. I've been through rebellious stages. I've been through stages where I was like, man, high on a revolutionary type mind frame. And I have been through stages where I thought that voting may not be important. And that I don't think that voting might be beneficial to me one way or another, right? But when we have elected officials like Angelina coming in, or we have Jeff Mims come in and sit down and talk to us, I realized that especially with this election right here,
yes,
with Angelina running for a judge and coming in and having that understanding and compassion about people who may be going through driver's license issues or going through whatever type of issues they may be going through, and she's not just ready to decide one way or another just because of your background. I mean, she wants this community to be safe for her children. So
and for your children,
and for everybody's children. And that's the point. That's the point. Like, this election is important, and this particular contest is important. And she's coming on telling you that she is going to be a fair judge.
Yes.
And that's all we want in life, is just to be judged fairly. So with that being said, you know, you definitely got my support as a candidate. I'm voting for Angelina.
Yeah, for sure.
And anybody that's kind of like that feels my vibe and likes the way that we do things, I would think that you would come out and rock with me as well. For just everybody that supports us here at T-Shirt Kings, and we're sharing this consciousness of how we think life should be.
Yeah,
man, vote Angelina Jackson.
There we go, man. There we go, for sure. So,
man,
you pay the bills real quick.
Man, Agnes All Natural Grill for lunch. If you're ever injured, call attorney Michael Wright. theshoparea.com. Antoine Cunningham is Kiara Wine. And what else was it? Was it P? It was one I'm forgetting.
Wright,
I said Michael Wright. I started off different.
He did the website.
Sheiks for breakfast, man. Oh, as a matter of fact, let's give Sheiks to breakfast. Marlon Shackelford just commented. He said voting is everything if you want anything. So man, let's give Big Shaq, man, breakfast at Sheiks. And then I'm going to give Agnes All Natural Grill lunch to Donzel Drake. He said he just checked in. Carrie Ivy said you look 21, by the way. So thank you for everybody that commented. Man, Zell, go get your lunch at Agnes, and then Shaq, you got breakfast at Sheik's.
For sure.
And then that's pretty much it. T-shirt Kings, Go For Your Mouth, and Camera King Studio. Sell Stocks Not Dope every Sunday on the Dash Resource channel. And let's go out with Angelina's commercial.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah.
Good commercial. And then you guys, we will see you. Election day is
November 8th.
November 8th, and the last day to register is
October 11th.
October the 11th. All right, so we know what we got to do. Register and then go vote on November the 8th. All right, peace, y'all.
Angelina has the perfect mix of experience and temperament to serve as a judge in the Common Pleas Court.
She's someone that's for all people, and that's what we need.
I think Angelina would be a great judge because she has the temperament, she has the experience, and she loves this community.
She is very experienced. She has a variety of background experiences that I believe really allow her to be not just an attorney, but a true advocate. That's something that the system is desperately missing.
When I think about the Common Pleas Court and its role in my children's future, that court has an opportunity to pursue justice.
That's why it's really, really important to have judges who represent the